Welcome to Brocky Mountain Movies. I'm your host, Rocky Mountain Brock, and today we are going to be talking about the live-action Lion King movie. Before we do, a little history. Everyone knows that Disney has been a multimedia giant. For almost 100 years, Disney has created timeless masterworks. But in the 80s, they had their darkest day. It was the release of their now kinda cult film, The Black Cauldron, which I'll review maybe later, maybe never. I don't know. It doesn't really interest me. Maybe just for completion's sake, maybe. But anyway, when it released, it bombed. And didn't just bomb, it lost to Care Bears, which had been out for a few weeks. It was Disney's darkest day, and one that almost killed the entire company. But then, the Renaissance. The return to form, the return to the fantasy, the return to what made Disney great, and they had the feel of Disney. And at the height of the Disney Renaissance was what they considered to be one of the best movies ever made, The Lion King, which is an animated retelling of Shakespeare's classic play, Hamlet. So, of course, Disney decided to remake it. But only this time, live action. You can see sort of how this would work. However, they went the photorealism route, which is the big problem with this movie. When you do photorealism to make everything look real and like you're doing it with actual animals, you take away something that cartoons always have in real life. Expressions. A cartoon goes out of its way to convince you that it's alive, while a live-action version, it will automatically assume that whatever you're showing, you automatically buy it. And that's far from the case. In any given art, you have to convince us that not seeing is alive, real, or at the very least charming. Live action always is lazy in this regard. It automatically assumes that because it's live action, it's the same, or even better than cartoons. Sometimes I feel that fiction overall are better than truth in real life. Not in the sense that it's better, but because it makes more sense. The huge problem with the live action version? Photorealism. Because of this, none of the characters can be as expressive as their cartoon counterparts, and therefore they can't get enough emotion. Live-action Lion King, you can tell they're saying lines, but they're not speaking them. They're not pulling them through. And that's the entire movie. You keep trying and trying to say these lines, but you're just repeating the lines and aren't able to emote as much as you need to. If they were, you could argue that the live-action version is better, because, basically speaking, you are, in fact, bringing it to life. But you're not bringing it to life, you're just using live action. There are some new things, but they add little to nothing. And the biggest problem is, you know why they added it. Adding a few extra lines or whatever, it's definitely now humor. Our humor is, well, kind of terrible, right? Or the Marvel humor, where people start talking normal in the middle of a serious conversation. But it makes sense when you have to set it up right. And what they're saying isn't inherently funny. It's more, oh, that's a good idea for a joke. Let's throw it in there. Does the joke have to be funny? No. Then I was sort of thinking to myself, something that really disheartened me about it. And it was this ball. This ball is an exercise ball, but it could also work as a chair right beside me. And I was thinking, if there was someone beside me and we talked it through, what would I be saying that they're not? What could I add that no one else could see? I mean, songs are shoehorned in, the characters aren't themselves anymore, they're not being who they are. I wondered, why is this my first review? I want it to be good. I want to talk about something that is worth talking about. What makes this one worth talking about? Then I realized what I'm doing here, why I'm doing this, and I thought about the future. I figure that once I figure out what I want this channel to be, I would perfect my passion, perfect my craft, and at some point I would come back and look at this video, the one that started it all. And I'd just sort of, look at myself. I'd look at all the decisions that haven't been made yet, all the ideas that are right now and how they're going to change and how they're going to be later on. All the movies I haven't seen yet and how they all interconnect with each other, all the ideas. And then I realized this isn't my live action Lion King. This is my original Lion King. And this is the one with my mission statement on it. I love movies. I always have. That's what I'm passionate about. That's why I'm doing this. Taking all my ideas and throwing it into my review and is all the great painters and poets and cinema is always expression of the human race. Every single person took a piece of their soul out and made whatever art you ever look at. I pray I never forget that. But Disney clearly has. The original is perfect because it is everything it wants to be and everything that it is. And all the moments that you know are awesome, they made awesome because they wanted to, because it was always them. They took their soul and they put it on the canvas. And that's why it works. That's why it is one of the most money-making films of all time. That's why they converted it into a friggin' Broadway musical. And that's why, even though it's 20 years, 25 years, we're still talking about it, and it's still one of the best movies ever made. This live-action version, it forgets to be itself. It's not just going through the motions. It's not just imitating it. It sort of be what The Lion King was, but it has to be alive. It has to live on its own. It has to walk on its own. It has to be you doing it. And we don't see it being alive. It's virtually choked. And that's something Disney needs to remember. You need to put your soul back into your movies. And we need to keep moving forward. It's going to be dark. It's going to be dangerous, but what we find is going to be more than worth it. So as this movie goes, it's okay, at the very least. Even if you're cheaply imitating it, there's nothing inherently wrong or bad about it. It just, the old one did it better. It's wonderful. My advice? If you want to see it, fine. If not, remember what's important. I'm Rocky Mountain Brock, and this is Brocky Mountain Movies. Thanks for watching, and God bless.